We're going to go straight into it this morning with the topic of maintenance. Looking around the room, I can see some people could probably do with some. So we're delighted to start with, if Quentin Bond from JSSI would come up, along with Rachan, Cheerachin from JSSI, Chris Davey from Bombardier, Michael Mechler from Rolls-Royce, and Steve McManus from GE Aviation will crack on. It would be great to make this as interactive as possible, so please don't hesitate if you have any questions. Chris, come on.
Good morning.
Have we got room for everyone?
Hey, Rachan, good to see you again.
Have we got room? Yeah, great. So if anyone's got any questions, please let us know. And let's start with a nice easy one for you, Steve. One of the things I think we saw yesterday from Jeff's presentation is that the market in Asia is quite volatile. You know, we'll see Singapore will suddenly lose a lot of aircraft, or China will grow rapidly, then slow down. How do you, as an OEM, decide where and when to invest? Steve.
Well, we've grown our support in the Asian region probably 3x in the last 5 years. We've added 2 engineers in the area, field service engineers. We've added a manager in the area. Our spares, we've added a spares facility in the area in Singapore that support that. And we've grown our MRO authorized service center network here by at least 3 to 4 times. So looking at the volume, where the aircraft are, where they're going to fly to, that's how we kind of look at that, make that kind of decision. Do you
always have to go ahead of the growth, or do you sometimes feel you're lagging in some areas? Or
well, if that crystal ball worked all the time, you always have a little bit of a lag. You know.
Michael, how does Rolls-Royce?
Pretty much similar. Obviously, we look at the fleet distribution, but we try to be sort of proactive, a bit of counter-cyclic, to be prepared for the upcycle at the end of the day. Like Steve said, we also have invested heavily in the region, so we have put spare parts in the region. We have put lease engines into the region. We have what we call on-wing care person in the region, basically a mobile repair party guy supporting the region. We have put parts into countries where customs clearance is a bit difficult sometimes and uncontrollable. So we have put parts into bonded stores to just be able to reduce downtime and lead times. Yeah. So we are trying to be proactive and be a bit counter-cyclic so that we are prepared when need is there then.
Chris, how does Bombardier decide?
Yeah, I mean, for us it's always been a proactive approach that we've really taken. I mean, we opened up the first regional support office in Asia, actually in Shanghai, in 2005, and from there it's just continued to develop. We've got a current network of 13 regional support offices based globally. 5 of those are actually here in Asia, being in Shanghai, Hong Kong, here in Singapore, Melbourne, and India. You know, and it really is about making sure that we've got the parts, the people, the required resources in the right location. From a parts standpoint, you know, out of the $700 million worth of inventory that we've got within the network globally, again, 5 parts depots within the Asia Pacific region. You know, we have the BAS Singapore facility here that, you know, we've seen the capacity demands of that facility. We're soon to announce some exciting news about what we're doing here in Singapore to increase that footprint. We have our facility in Tianjin in China, which we opened up in April 2017. We're continuing to invest and develop that facility with additional regulatory authority approvals and so forth to cater for that greater clientele. It's not purely, I think we all recognise, it's not about just supporting the fleet that's domiciled here. It is in this global business segment where we are supporting everything that travels into here at the same time.
Quentin or Rachan?
Asia is a very important region for JSSI. Sure, there's ups and downs in this region, but we've invested a lot recently into this region. We've recently opened our regional head office in Hong Kong, which everyone's invited to come up. We serve drinks after 1800 every day. But we've expanded our team in Hong Kong. We have someone based in Indonesia now. We're expanding our team in China, Australia. So no, Asia is a very important region for us, and we're here to stay. Same answer.
Do you I've got a question coming. Sorry, I'm trying to get a poll up as well. I'm just going. Sorry, technology this morning is not working. How is your business? This is a great question from the audience. How is your business addressing the shortage of service engineers, especially management companies operating mixed fleet? Chris, the people problem. How do you cope with that over here?
Yeah, we invest in the people, that's for sure. You know, we've always taken, you know, part of that regional support strategy that I spoke of, you know, really in this region, again, 2005, we opened up that first office. And that was all about decentralising the business out of the headquarters and getting into the regions and getting, you know, culturally adapted to the regions and having people off assignments and here to stay. So that was the initial growth path. And we just continue to invest in these local regions. We, you know, when Simon first kicked off the Singapore BAS facility, you know, we took the people, the local technicians and engineers out of here and placed them within the network in North America at the time, and, you know, brought them up, their skill set, and you know, instilled that Bombardier culture into them. By doing that, we've done the same thing with Tianjin as well. The Tianjin technicians all came down into Simon's facility and got the learnings from there. So it's literally homegrown. It's the approach.
Steve, is it hard to find people?
I think we've been lucky. We have we've grown the GE business, not just in business aviation, but commercial aviation over the last 20 years. So when we've been able to flex, we can flex and support customers with our GE on-wing support teams, as well as through our authorized service centers or our network of providers. So we do scenarios in preparation, like for the passport that's coming on with the Global 7500. We put our teams and we test our teams to see, are they making the right decisions? Are they able to access? So we will have a game scenario that says, this customer went down in this location, and make those calls and see how long it takes us to meet customers' needs. So adding people, we've got a really broad breadth of people that we can draw from, commercial as well as our business aviation teams and customers and support.
Michael, do you see it as we have a lot of talk about aging workforce, and it's true with mechanics as well as pilots.
I mean, the pilots obviously is not an issue for us because we are not. But we are minimizing that problem by having 24/7 support out of other countries. Like we have an availability center back at Rolls-Royce in Germany, which is 24/7. They are supporting our customers worldwide. We do have people locally, but they are typically long-term employees. My colleague Mark is sitting in the audience. He's over 30 years with Rolls-Royce, so we are trying to minimize those risks. There is obviously a shortage, yes, but it's not that much of a problem for us at the moment. And we are also having authorized service facilities, which obviously we are sort of down feeding that problem to the authorized service facilities.
Yeah, we're always looking for new talent. In the US, we have a large number of interns and engineers that join our company and get trained up. Regionally in Asia, we are trying to expand our engineering team. Quite a few of them come from operators or OEMs. But yeah, there is a shortage in Asia, but you know, we try and find new talent all the time.
So, Quentin, when you're talking to your customers, what's the biggest frustration with owning an aircraft in Asia?
I would say regulation and restrictions of operating the aircraft, such as parking, slot restrictions. But then there's also the frustration with the unpredictable operating costs. So, no one really knows how much an AOG is going to cost in Asia, which is why a program is important for this region. But yeah, I would say those are the frustrating things.
I think this is one of the problems in the past was the remoteness of the service, basically non-availability of services, which we have addressed obviously in the past. We have heavily invested, similar like you, and to put parts into the region, to put infrastructure into the region. So, but I agree, infrastructure in general, slot availability, things like that, these are probably, and we have heard it yesterday, these are the biggest problems in the region, I think. Basically everything that is not controllable by the operator.
Chris?
Yeah, definitely everything that the gentlemen have just highlighted. I think, again, with the new customer base that we're seeing, the new client base is the frustration, a lot of it's born from just the unknown. And there's an education that still needs to happen there with the new customer base, people that are new to business aircraft. So, I know that the operators are doing a great job along with the OEMs at educating and supporting. But yeah, I think the frustration, a lot of it's born from the unknown.
Well, I think there's probably twofold. You've got a new aircraft owner. That's one side of it. And they usually have less problems. It's when a customer buys a used aircraft, understanding what maintenance is involved and the issues with that aircraft or the engines. So I think we see some frustration that in use of that product that they bought, what they can or can't do with it, and how much maintenance or how much it's going to cost them to manage that entire aircraft.
So if we look at the poll, at the moment, I think 30% think you guys are doing a great job, which I think tells us the audience is probably 30% OEMs at the moment. Or they're just voting better. 36% think you're doing fairly well, and 36% saying you could do better. Do you think it will always be like that, Chris? Do you think that, will anyone ever tell you you're perfect?
I don't think anyone's going to tell us that we're perfect, but I think everyone's recognising that there's a level of effort that's going in to continue to improve, especially out in this region. We're going to continue to invest, especially with the upcoming delivery later this year, the 7500. That's going to bring around another level of support within the region as we see that product turn up here. So, yeah, there's an effort that's going to continue to go on to hopefully improve that score that we're seeing there today.
Steve?
Anytime your aircraft has a problem, it's going to really frustrate the customer, especially if it's an AOG situation. They're going to be upset. It shouldn't happen. But I think it's not that you're going to have a problem, it's how you act in helping the customer solve that problem.
One of the big frustrations from owners and operators was that, getting parts into country. Have you, is that less of a headache for your guys now? Have you pretty much cracked the major countries?
Correct. Well, we put parts in various countries. I was talking to Todd Gibson last night about we have an opportunity in our much of our BBJs. We'll put flyaway kits in there with them. Okay. And so if they're stuck in a location, air filter or fuel filter, they've got something that they can easily replace that. And putting that in that product may be simple, but that's what helps keep somebody from being stuck for a long time versus a short time.
So we have approached that problem in different ways. First of all, as I said before, we have put in parts into the region, we have put spare engines into the region, but secondly, we also increased the number of service centers in the region, and part of authorizing service centers is they have to have tooling, they have to invest in parts, so they have to have a stock of parts available to support their customers. So this is basically having our own stores in the region, plus having parts through our service centers in the region. So I think it's getting better. Can it be improved further? Probably yes. And if you had asked that same question about how happy people are 5 years ago, it would have looked a lot worse. But it will never be 100% happiness, because wherever customers are, there's always something to be improved, obviously.
I guess the difficulty of parts in the region, getting parts in the region, an indication of that is our 5 parts depots that we have in the region. We'd probably like to have one central hub and distribute out of there, but we do recognise that, through customs lag and the geographic challenges that we need actually localised parts. Hence why we've got parts in China, we've got parts in Hong Kong, parts here in Singapore, in Australia. So yeah, that is all about making sure we can get the part to the customer, to the aircraft on time.
I'll let our technical advisor answer that question.
Yeah, thank you. So I actually support those OEM that they try to put more parts in the region, but still they cannot put 100% in the region. Sometimes, like China, you have a lot of the problem to get the parts in, get the parts out. So from our side, we have a lot of networks working very close with the MRO. Basically, in China, in Thailand, in Philippines, they have a lot of experience. So we work very close with them, and then sometimes they have a very good suggestion to bring the parts in, recommend good agent to do the import and export. So indicated from what OEM have, we do have our networks to help.
Is there, Rachan, are there any countries where you see, where if one of your customers calls you and says, I've got an AOG, which are the ones where you go, oh, this is going to be a nightmare?
China is still, I'm not talking about Beijing or Shanghai, I'm talking about remote outside of that capital. So yeah, like I say, sometimes we have to bring the part to the Beijing or Shanghai first, and then from there deliver to the place where the aircraft is AOG.
Michael, what's the one where you go?
I would agree, China, the remote places in China are pretty difficult, but we can also piggyback on our airlines infrastructure, so we have offices around Asia, in China. So for example, when it comes to clearing customs, they have much better ways of clearing parts through customs than we have on the small engine side. So we can piggyback on those services in the whole country, and they have offices not just in Beijing and Shanghai. So.
It's an OEM issue. Again, we can bring a lot to the party. As Michael just said, we draw on our commercial side, our on-wing support side, and our business jet side. I mean, there's a lot of commonality on our parts, and we're able to support that through a very large network.
Chris, where do you get your grey hairs from?
Kabul. No. It really comes into a lot of factors. It's not purely the location either. It may be, down to what the aircraft, what authority it's registered under, what AOC it's under, and a Yasser aircraft in China still poses a number of challenges for us because, you know, although we've got our EASA techs based in Hong Kong and here in Singapore, you know, there's a lag there. So if you're FAA in that region, you're not so bad off. If you're B-Reg, you're probably doing really well. But EASA in some of those remote areas is still a challenge for us. So, and again, it comes down to that customs as well. We may get the people on site quick enough, but, you know, getting the parts through customs and getting them to the aircraft is another challenge.
Interesting question here. You guys are all investing huge amounts in the region. So why do you think many Asian-based aircraft still head to the US for base maintenance? Why are people still flying their aircraft to America for base maintenance?
Yeah, you know, I think that that market in the US is, from a maintenance standpoint, is still very, very mature. You know, and I think there's a level of uncertainty sometimes in some of the local regions. The slower turn time potentially to get the aircraft, you know, in and out of maintenance. It's the ease of getting, again, parts to the aircraft. The volume that the US market, or even today Singapore, of technicians that are in that market, because they're not only servicing, obviously, the aircraft that are domiciled in the region, but they're getting them in from everywhere. So it's the scalability of it as well.
Steve?
I think as Asia matures, you're going to see the ability to do more work here. And there's going to be a better and broader trust in the Asian maintenance. There's also a bigger volume of maintenance facilities in Europe and in the United States than there are in Asia. And we have an airport about every 8 miles, it seems, in Ohio, where I live. So you have facilities and people that are trained. It's a very mature industry there.
It's more like I think it's more like an airframe problem, not a problem but an issue. But on the engine side, when a couple of years ago, I think at the conference, someone was presenting a map, a center of gravity of business aviation, which still shows the center of gravity across the Atlantic Ocean somewhere. So that means that most of business aviation is in the US and eventually in Europe. So the volume here in the region doesn't justify an overhaul facility here. The entry the barrier of entry to build up overhaul facilities for the engines by having to invest in heavily in tooling and things like that is far too high at the moment because the volume is too low in this region. Obviously, line maintenance, yes, that's through authorized service facilities here in the region. That's available in the region. Heavy maintenance for the engines, no.
Yeah, actually, I agree with you. But for the airframe side, I would say the reason why they have to send the aircraft to US or North America just because of, first is the warranty stuff. Second is the completion items. Because in the Asia, I have no doubt for the line maintenance support and up to certain level. But for the big check, sometimes if you find the big corrosion, still most of the time you get the take-offs and then they will say, hey, you have to bring the aircraft back to US where we have full capability to support. So that is the reason why most of the customers try to bring the aircraft just to save, not to take any risk to, at the end have to ferry the aircraft to OEM.
Okay, so you brought up the corrosion word. At the and there's 2 ways we can go on this, but one of them is at the ASBA AGM, David Dixon said that there needs to be a task force committed to improve the quality of condition in much of the Asian fleet. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, exactly. Because especially like Singapore, Hong Kong, Thailand, It is the tropical area, high humidity. So the aircraft preservation, restoration is very important. So actually, even though in the past, I don't think the operator, they care much about this, but it become more and more, and then we can see that if you didn't pay attention to this area, it will cost you a lot at the end. So we try to give some suggestion to our client to pay attention on this corrosion prevention.
Anyone?
I think it's quite right that there are different costs involved in regions like out here because of the environmental impact. And I think all of us in the room, we understand that, but it's more about educating the owners that they are facing different types of cost structures eventually if they don't take care and if they don't maintain the aircraft and engines properly. So it's really about educating the owners, and we all have to collectively do that, I think, from the OEM side, from the maintenance facility side, from the operator side. So we have a task to do, and I think that task force that David was talking about is mainly about educating people, I think.
Although, interestingly, well, do you have more difficult conversations about corrosion over here than you do in, say, the Middle East, Michael?
Actually, no, because when we talk about the corporate care program, we do cover corrosion, so people really don't care at the end of the day. We do charge a slightly higher rate in those regions because of those higher costs, but people do understand when we do have the opportunity to explain it to them properly. But our customers, in terms of engine, corporate care customers, they don't have an issue at the end of the day because corrosion is covered as a standard service element. Whenever and you never see an engine being overhauled without corrosion, especially out of this region.
I agree with Michael. We fully cover corrosion. Actually, it's not a restriction at all in our program.
But don't you also have clauses that if you think an aircraft's been neglected, that you and so
abused,
abused,
probably, yeah, and some of them are. Okay, and when you see that blatant abuse, I mean, it's highly identifiable.
And obviously engines need to be maintained in accordance with the manuals to keep them serviceable. If anything is done, if an aircraft is parked for a while and the engines haven't been preserved properly or maintained properly, this is what we call a non-qualified event under the program. Yeah.
Exactly the same with us. We cover corrosion as well, as long as it's repairable. But if we have to change a part, it's also classed as abuse. So we do cover corrosion as well.
Well, I guess our level of corrosion protection is we'll replace the part. It's not a matter of we have a limit. The limit is you're protected.
is it still the single point where you have most issues with customers? I suppose the first issue is customers not paying you, so is it the second biggest point?
Just let me add, it's, you know, I mean, this is not an Asia-based problem. We're seeing we see probably more of the effect out of certain parts of Europe, you know, especially Eastern Europe. Anywhere that the aircraft are going into, you know, I guess where the environment where they're going to need to de-ice on a regular occasion, if that's not addressed, you know, the factor is you're going to get corrosion, and so it's a maintainability problem as opposed to an environmental, certain geographic environmental problem. I'm really happy actually to see that ASBA's going to take that on, and you know we'll be ready to actively participate in any task force that's formed on that.
There is a perception, isn't there, that Asian with many US buyers. Actually, it's interesting. We are seeing it with US buyers getting worried about corrosion, particularly on certain aircraft types in Europe. But is the perception fair that, you know, aircraft over here are in a worse condition?
I think it's a perception, but and this is perception from the past as well. It's quality of maintenance, quality of maintaining aircraft engine interior, and there's some, obviously this is based on some experience from the past that probably has changed over the last couple of years, and we see aircraft going from mainland China, from Asia into US, so I think that perception has changed in the meantime.
Okay, we have another question from the audience. How do you define the maturity of MRO facilities in APAC? Is there a quantifiable gauge? By the way, Mike was clearly thinking about that hard.
You know, I really do think it's down to the experience of the facility, how long the facility's been established for, the capabilities that the facility's got. You know, has the facility got paint capabilities, structural repair capabilities, interior refurb capabilities? Yeah, I think it does come down to that, the experience and the capabilities that's within the facility itself.
Yeah, I agree with Chris, because actually the work scope drive where the MRO to be. So normally started from the work scope that we got from the client, and then we decide together where is the best MRO, where to send the aircraft to do. Sometimes they want to also do the cabin refurbishment, so of course we have to look for the STC holder MRO that they can do the cabin refurbishment. Sorry.
Okay, we've got another question from the audience. Are you tying up with local institutions in identifying the skill gap? You know, Michael?
Yeah, we are working with universities here in Singapore specifically. We are working with universities worldwide, have technology programs, student programs. So this is both to educate the people about aviation, but also benefit of the local institutes with collaboration for new technologies. We do that worldwide, yeah.
Our focus is to work and hire locally where we can as well. They understand the product, they understand the people. We train them appropriately.
Any more questions from the audience? Okay, let's jump to the future. There's a lot of new technologies coming along. We've got, you know, artificial intelligence, we've got 3D printing or additive manufacturing, biofuel. We saw the first order for electric business jets a few weeks ago. What's going to make the biggest difference in the next 10 years?
Predictive and 3D printing. So I know we're taking our new engines, Passport, and the advanced turboprop, which is our catalyst engine, and we're making a lot of parts in there with the 3D printing. And it's a pretty neat process. It allows us to do manufacturing of a part that was previously not capable. And I would love the idea that we could be able to print a part at an airport and be able to use it. However, there's a lot of additional processing that goes on after you 3D print a part. The next side of that is predictive maintenance, and we're doing that today where we're looking at data from tens and thousands of engines every day, and we're looking at that aircraft when it's in flight and trying to talk to the operators, putting it down weeks before an event might occur. So it's all about, instead of you're going to have an event, but having an event at a convenient location. And we have done that many, many times. And that's how we improve the reliability of the product. We are able to use that predictive maintenance not only with our digital twin, where we understand our product and the dimensional parts that are in that engine, but we can make and devise solutions with engineering on aircraft that are flying live. So we're seeing that predictive is going to be a big part of that.
I think it's pretty much the same. So on the manufacturing side, obviously we are using the same new technologies like additive layer manufacturing, 3D printing, also metal injection molding, things like that. This is on the manufacturing side, and we are we have applied those technologies in our newest engine family, the Pearl engine, which has been announced recently at EBACE, together with Bombardier's new 6500, 5500 aircraft. But on the in-service side, we also concentrate on the being proactive, being predictive. We have gone from like a couple of dozen parameters to be monitored with the engine health monitoring to now going to be available to use about over 9,000 parameters to analyze the performance of the engine. We have developed a new, what we call engine vibration health monitoring unit, which has features to talk via secure internet connections to our secure servers in a bidirectional way, so we can online reconfigure which parameters we want to get to analyze specific parameters and engine performance online. So it's making use of big data, basically, and what you call digital twin, we call intelligent engine, basically, which is pretty much the same. We will have, like what we have in Facebook for people, we'll have something similar for the engines. So engines will sort of talk to each other, to compare each other, this is not far too distant future.
Yeah, I mean, during EBACE a few weeks ago, there's obviously a lot of talk about biofuels. You know, this market segment probably has lagged behind the commercial aircraft, the commercial aviation segment in that regard, but I think everyone's definitely focused and on the bandwagon now. I agree everything about predictive maintenance. You know, you see the development of maintenance programs over time. I mean, in the last few years, we've seen such as our Learjet product, is the maintenance programs have been escalated 100%. The Challenger and the Global products have been escalated 50%. I think we've almost stretched that to the limit where we now need to flip to a predictive maintenance type schedule program, and the technology that's on board the aircraft today definitely allows that through the automated health monitoring systems that are in place.
Yeah, we agree as well. Predictive maintenance and 3D printing. I have to say, GE's new advanced turboprop engine and passport engine, the way they're manufacturing the parts is very, very impressive. But that's pretty much going to be the future, I think.
I mean, that's true, because like AI technology and cloud technology will affect a lot of the maintenance costs at the end. So with the predicted maintenance, that maybe in the future less people to get involved. So yeah, maybe we have to charge for the online service or something more than the labor cost.
I mean, all this new technology stuff is not done just for being at the front end of the technology. It's done to support customers, to increase availability, which is key for it's business aviation, at least. Yeah? It's increasing availability by being predictive, by preventing things to happen, or by being prepared when things happen. Yeah.
And having it done at a convenient time. Exactly.
Great. Any more questions? If not, thank you very much. That's brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you.